My neighbor slipped me a note at dawn. "Check your will." That's what I whispered to myself the moment I saw the folded paper under my door. And I swear to you, child, my hand started shaking before I even picked it up. Who would write something like that? I remember muttering, barely awake, still in my robe, the kettle whistling behind me. What are you trying to warn me about? I didn't understand. Not then. But by the time the sun had fully climbed over the pines outside my kitchen window, I knew in my bones that something was terribly wrong. Something rotten. Something planned. Because the handwriting on that note wasn't my neighbor's. No. It was too careful. Too neat. As if the person didn't want me to recognize it. And it came at dawn. Dawn? Who wakes up at 5 in the morning to slip a warning under a 72-year-old woman's door? I'll tell you who. Someone who feared I wouldn't live long enough to see the afternoon. When I opened the safe, tucked behind the old paint cans in my basement, I expected to see what had been there for 2 decades. My late husband's chestnut brown folder, my original will, my life insurance papers, my bank information, everything I had set aside for my son, Daniel, before I truly knew what kind of man he was becoming. But the moment I turned the dial and pulled open the heavy metal door, I felt my stomach drop. The folder wasn't brown anymore. It was blue, bright blue. A completely different folder, and a completely different set of documents inside. I remember the sound I made. Not a scream, not a gasp. Something small, something tight. A wounded animal kind of noise. Because right there on top of the stack was a new will. A forged will. A will I had supposedly signed 2 months earlier, leaving everything, to Daniel and his wife, Melissa. My house, my savings, my life insurance, even the burial plot next to my husband, and my signature looked almost perfect. Almost. I always thought my life would end quietly. A soft winter morning in Maine. A cup of tea cooling on the table. Maybe a quilt around my legs and a breeze sneaking through the cracked window. Not like this. Not standing in my own basement with my heart pounding like a war drum, staring at a will I never signed, my name bent into a shape I didn't recognize. I touched the signature with the tip of my finger. "Is this what you've become, Daniel?" I whispered. "Is this really what you've done to your own mother?" I tried to breathe, slowly, calmly, like the therapists on those morning shows always say, but the air felt thick, heavy, wrong, the kind of wrong you don't come back from. I didn't know then that this forged will was only the beginning, the first loose thread in a sweater that, once pulled, would unravel my whole world, and my family, and nearly my life. But to understand how we got here, you need to know what came before the lies, before the greed, before the neighbor who risked everything to slip me a warning at dawn. Because the truth is, I raised a monster, and I didn't see it until it was almost too late. I met my husband, Frank, when I was 19. Harpswell, 1967. The summer smelled like fried dough and gasoline, and everyone thought they were invincible. Especially him. He had a grin like a movie star, and hands rough from working the docks. I loved him the way only a stubborn young woman can love. Fully. Recklessly. With the dumb belief that people stay the way they are when you first meet them. We married the next year, moved into a drafty little house overlooking the water, and tried to build a life out of nothing but grit and paychecks that never stretched far enough. Rent was $90. Groceries for the week were $14. Our entire savings for the first 5 years didn't break 200, but we made it work. Then came Daniel, my boy, my firstborn. 10 pounds of trouble with his father's grin and my stubbornness. I swear to you, I loved him more than oxygen. We struggled like everyone else. Frank worked nights loading trucks. I took whatever jobs I could. Cleaning houses, sewing repairs for the older women in town, later a receptionist at Dr. Whalen's dental office. Anything that brought in a little extra. When Daniel turned 10, the roof collapsed in a winter storm. The insurance fight lasted 6 months, and by the end we were $700 short every month, juggling credit cards, patching holes with duct tape, teaching the kids, Daniel and his sister May, to eat around the moldy spots of bread when the paycheck was late. I thought hardship made us closer. I thought sacrifice built loyalty. I thought love guaranteed love in return. I was wrong. Daniel grew into a young man everyone in town adored. Polite, helpful, always offering to mow the neighbor's lawn or help an older couple carry groceries. But beneath it all was a little coldness, a little entitlement, a little, why don't we have more, bitterness he tried to hide. But a mother always knows. He went to college on loans and small scholarships, business major, numbers, money, profit. He fell in love with a girl named Melissa, who looked at our old house with polite disgust every time she visited. I saw it in her eyes even when she smiled. That smell, is that seaweed? She asked the first Thanksgiving. No, I said. That's just Maine. She never laughed at my jokes. They married when he was 28. I paid for the wedding cake $700, even though I didn't have it. I put it on a credit card. Funny how now, at 72, that number still stings. Over time, Daniel drifted. Calls became shorter. Visits became excuses. Mother's Day turned into cheap grocery store tulips delivered 2 days late. When Frank died in 2013, Daniel's grief lasted exactly 1 week before he asked if we could reassess the family property situation. I just want to make sure things are organized, he said. But the truth was simpler. He wanted the house, my house. The one Frank and I built board by board. I didn't leave it to him. I split everything evenly between him and May in the will I created with lawyer Henderson in 2014. Simple, clear, fair. Years passed. Daniel grew colder. Melissa grew greedier. Their debts grew deeper. Credit cards, a failed business venture, rumors of gambling. But they never told me the truth. I thought distance was the worst they could do. I had no idea they were planning something far darker. It started small, boring small, the kind of small that makes you feel silly for noticing it. A bill missing from the kitchen table, a bank statement I didn't remember approving online, a conversation between Daniel and Melissa that stopped the moment I stepped into the room. Then came the words. Every older woman hears at some point, the words used like a weapon. Mom, you're confused. Mom, you're misremembering again. Mom, you're getting older. It happens. I hate those words. They bruise the mind, and they bruised mine. One afternoon, I overheard them whispering in the living room. If she just signs it. She won't. She's stubborn. We don't have time. The payment's due Friday. I know that, but... Then silence. When I stepped in, they smiled too quickly, too sweetly. What were you two talking about? I asked. Daniel touched my shoulder like he was comforting a sick child. "Nothing, Mom. You're worrying again." That night, I cried into my pillow. Am I paranoid? Am I losing it? Am I going crazy? But the next week, when I went looking for my life insurance policy in the safe, it was gone. "Daniel," I said on the phone, trying to stay calm. "Did you move my documents?" His voice turned soft, gentle, patronizing. "Mom, you probably misplaced them. It happens. It happens. It happens. It happens." He said it 3 times, like he was rewiring my brain. Then came the medical scare. I passed out in the kitchen, hit my head, woke up in the hospital with Daniel at my bedside, holding my hand like the perfect son. "Mom, maybe it's time we talk about power of attorney," he said softly. "No," I said immediately. His expression hardened for a split second before he faked a smile again. "I'm just trying to help." But child, the look in his eyes wasn't concern. It was hunger. I didn't trust my mind anymore. I needed proof. Cold, unshakable proof. It came in pieces. First was the anonymous note slipped under my door at dawn. "Check your will." Second was the forged document in the safe. Third came from my neighbor, old Barney, who knocked on my door 2 days later with his hat in his hands. "I don't want trouble," he whispered, "but I saw your boy sneaking around your basement last week, wearing gloves. Figured you ought to know." My heart almost stopped. I bought a small USB camera online, hidden in a ceramic bird on the shelf. I installed it myself, trembling the whole time. The next week, Daniel came by to check on me. Melissa waited in the car. "Mom, where do you keep that blue folder?" he asked casually. "What folder?" His smile twitched. "The one you showed me last time." I had never shown him any folder. When he left, I checked the hidden camera. There he was. My son, rifling through my safe, pulling out documents, putting new ones in. I watched him take photos. I watched him swap envelopes. I watched him wipe down the metal with a cloth. But the worst part wasn't what he did. It was how he whistled while doing it, like it was nothing. The next step was a lawyer. I brought everything to Miss Carlyle, a sharp woman in her 40s with a voice like cracked ice. "Your son and daughter-in-law are attempting large-scale inheritance fraud," she said. "And based on what you've told me, possibly insurance manipulation." "Manipulation?" I asked. She looked me dead in the eyes. "Mrs. Carter, someone changed your life insurance beneficiaries without your consent." I felt the blood drain from my body. "And one more thing," she added. "Your recent collapse in the kitchen. Did the hospital ever find a cause?" "No. Because your symptoms sound similar to mild digitalis exposure." "Poison," I whispered. She nodded. "Let me guess. They insisted on bringing you meals. Tea? Supplements?" I thought of the herbal tea Melissa brought me every visit. "Oh, God," I whispered. "Oh, God. Oh, God." It happened on a Friday, the deadline they had whispered about, the day everything came to light. The courtroom was packed, mostly with neighbors who pretended not to stare. Daniel sat with Melissa at the defendant's table, both looking strangely calm, like they thought they'd talk their way out of this. The judge called my name. "Mrs. Evelyn Carter, please approach." My legs shook. My breath trembled. But my voice was steady. I handed over the hidden camera footage, the forged documents, the medical reports. The toxicology recommendation, the anonymous note, Barney's statement. Then Miss Carlyle played the recording I had captured the day before the hearing, a recording I made with my phone in my pocket. Daniel's voice filled the courtroom. She's old. She won't notice anything. Once Friday hits, it's all ours. Just make her drink the damn tea. Melissa's voice followed. If she dies, it's faster. Less paperwork. Gasps spread across the room. Daniel turned whiter than paper. Melissa went rigid. The judge slammed her gavel. By the time the bailiff put cuffs on them, Daniel begged, "Mom! Mom, please. You don't understand. I understand perfectly," I said quietly. "You chose money over your own mother," he cried. Truly cried. But it was too late. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The verdict took only 2 hours. Guilty, fraud, forgery, attempted insurance manipulation, reckless endangerment, suspected poisoning. Melissa got 12 years. Daniel got 10. I didn't cry in the courtroom. I cried at home later when the house felt too quiet. Losing a child to prison isn't something you ever plan for. It isn't something you heal from. Not fully. Not cleanly. But slowly life came back. My neighbor Barney checks on me every morning. May calls me every night. The town, the same town that once whispered about my family's troubles, now treats me like a survivor. I walk along the harbor at sunrise. I drink tea I make myself. I sleep without fear. And sometimes when the wind hits the windows just right, I feel Frank beside me again. Proud, watchful, steady. I didn't lose everything. I didn't break. I survived. And surviving, at my age, is the bravest thing I've ever done. If you're listening to my story, I want you to remember this. Sometimes the people you love most can hurt you the deepest. Sometimes blood is the sharpest blade. But old age is not weakness. It is strength refined by time. And now I'll ask you the question I still ask myself. What would you have done in my place? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories told with honesty, tears, and truth, you know what to do. Subscribe, stay close, and trust your instincts. They might just save your life.